Remake Rewind.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Remake Rewind. I'm Mike, as always. With me, I've got my buddy Alex. He's my co-host too, but he's also my bud. What's up, bud?
What's up, co-host?
You know, it's funny. We were texting each other earlier, and you were like, "Oh, I was just trying to have a conversation with my friend," and I almost said, "We are at best business associates for the podcast," and I decided not to be a dick, and then you pulled this piece of shit move right now at the top of the episode.
I'm getting you back, buddy.
There you go. Fair enough. But get me back. I didn't say that, but you know,
You were being rude in our text exchange.
I was being cold. That is true. That's fair.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I was
Thank
being
you.
sarcastic and cold and
Let's
being
start the
dismissive
podcast.
of your concerns about the financial institutions of this country that we live in.
That's my point, though. I wasn't concerned. I was just pointing out like a crazy thing that happened. I don't usually see GME dip $10 at the end of the day.
That's
within
fair.
a minute.
But that's not what this podcast is about. It's not about our quarrels. It's not about our fading friendship.
Mike, spell quarrels right now.
Quarrels.
I don't know if that's wrong.
I can't remember if it's 2 R's or not. And this is not a spelling podcast either. What we do here is we talk about a movie, its remake or reboot, and just kind of talk about whether or not the remake or reboot should have happened, if it brings merit or any value to the cinematic world. Not necessarily which movie is better. Sometimes that pops up. Sometimes it doesn't. But in this case, we're going to be covering a Christmas classic, Home Alone, and
That's right.
the 2021 Disney Plus original Home Sweet Home Alone.
Mhm.
And we've got thoughts. And just to acknowledge at the very top, Home Alone is a classic movie. It's 30 years old at this point. There are a bunch of documentaries about the movie. There's not going to be really anything that we can say that hasn't been said, but we're going to, spend a few minutes on it. But I think this will be a short episode, and a bulk will be on the remake. So,
Yeah, we're going to say some things, but probably not
as
that you
always,
haven't heard.
per the usual. But,
It's
obviously
a
this
podcast.
movie,
What else would we do?
it is a classic movie. Macaulay Culkin, Catherine O'Hara, John Candy's in it briefly, and had to, do a 24-hour set day just to, get his cameos and scenes in. John Hughes, Chris Columbus. He's just an all-star cast and production crew. Just a fantastic movie.
Do we
But,
say John Williams?
John Williams for the score. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, for me, Christmas doesn't start until, it doesn't matter when I put up the tree. It doesn't matter when I do my Christmas shopping. Christmas doesn't start until I watch this movie, and I watch it every year. A little earlier this year than usual, but, I've got to watch it every year, and the second one.
Yeah. When does so Christmas starts when you watch this? When does what does Die Hard signify? When in the month do you watch
So
Die Hard?
Die Hard, we actually normally watch either on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. The last few years,
Oh.
we've watched it on Christmas Day. There was like 1 year we didn't get to it until Christmas Day, and I think the last 2 or 3 years we've just watched it on Christmas Day.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, the staples are Home Alone, Die Hard, Christmas Story, and Elf. Like, we got to watch those ones every year, and then we'll throw in, one of the classics, Miracle on 34th Street or It's a Wonderful Life. But those aren't ones that we necessarily watch every year because, It's a Wonderful Life is a little depressing, but, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But
Right, man.
what are your takes on this movie?
Yeah, I mean, you put me on the spot here. It's what can I say that that you didn't just say? There's nothing to be said about this movie. Like, it's a classic. People have been talking about it for 30 years. I don't think we have too much to add. A lot of the notes that I have are just like fun little
Wait a
things
second,
that
Macaulay Culkin's here, special guest. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's bring them out. A lot of things that I picked up on this time around were just like things that I haven't noticed in my, dozen watches of this, dozen plus watches. So I don't know if I have anything to add to the conversation beyond
Well,
it's a fantastic movie.
Tell me these things that you noticed this time that you didn't notice on your previous dozens of watches.
Well, sir. The music, John Williams, man. Like, how incredible is that score?
I mean, everything he touches is gold. He wakes up in the morning and pisses excellence.
And it just sounds fantastic,
It hits the
You're in-
porcelain, and it's just like,
I think one of the things I really like consciously thought about this time around was how creepy the movie is from the moment it gets going. And like, it's not creepy all the way through, but the score and the way they choose to do the opening credits like sets a tone of like something's amiss, you know? And that's kind of what the movie's about. Like it's Home Alone. There's a kid home alone. There's just scary guys outside. and the music really like sets that tone, and also just the way those titles come in, like very Stranger Thingsy. They come out, you know, from you into the movie, and it opens up on like on a dark night with like a full moon behind clouds. It's kind of spooky.
It is. And then like, and speaking of spooky, you know, Kevin, as this movie goes, he goes from being, you know,
Kevin!
I don't want to say he's timid, because he's very used to standing up for himself, because like his whole family kind of shits on him. And like Kevin is an asshole, and I kind of get it, because everyone kind of treats him like shit. But like he is afraid, you know, early on in the movie, he's hiding under the bed a bunch, and then he has to make this conscious decision to not be afraid, because he's realizing he's on his own. And I think that's
it's
a
an
pretty
arc.
incredible story.
Yeah, there's an arc there, even if it's not the most surface level thing, and it's not super high stakes that Kevin learns to take care of himself and not be afraid of things. It's still something that like resonates with you on an unconscious level while you're watching it, and
Especially growing up with this movie.
Yeah, and we should revisit that point when we get into the new one.
Yeah, absolutely.
His family is absolutely awful to him too, and he takes some shots back, but you can tell that it's coming from a place of like, I'm not being seen or heard, and that makes me feel bad.
Yeah,
and that's like a very valid
neglected
feeling for anybody, but especially for a little kid.
Well, and what I do appreciate about this one, and this is something that I've noticed more as an adult, you know, over subsequent rewatches over the last few years, is it's really easy to just say this family is shitty and they're all awful people, and like they have these moments where they're awful. But when you look at both movies, and even this movie, when they realize he's gone, there's not a single family member, with the exception of maybe Buzz, where he's like, "Hey, I'm not that lucky. B, I'm not that lucky." You know, whatever.
What you get from Buzz though is like his way of being, you know, a caring older brother. He's a teenager, like whatever.
Yeah, but like
you get more out of him than you would expect.
Yeah, but I mean, every sibling is on the phone in the airport trying to make calls to neighbors. Everybody's concerned. Everybody's going up to like, our brother's missing. Like, they are all generally concerned about the welfare of their brother, even though they seem like they pick on him because he's the runt of the family. They all genuinely care where he is.
Yeah,
which I never really picked up on as a kid. So the family is loving.
Yeah, yeah, but they are, you know, awful to him in that night. And I guess like you kind of, I don't want to say you see both sides, like you see the family's side, but I think you can kind of understand that everyone is just like feeling crammed into the house. You know, it feels like an authentic and relatable thing that everyone's crammed in there. The holidays are just like stressful, and they bring up a lot of things. And Kevin, like, you know, Kevin's feelings are valid, but he also spills the drink and he's pushing Buzz or whatever. And it just feels like more of a tragedy that night.
Yeah,
and the fact that he gets left behind.
If this just happened at a family dinner, you know, he knocked out, you know, he fought with Buzz and it was just, you know, his immediate family, probably wouldn't have been a big thing. But, you know, obviously the passports get soaked and the airline tickets get soaked. And, you know, it's the 90s. You can't just go online and go, oh, shit, I messed up. I need to reprint my boarding pass or pull it up on my cell phone. Like,
I think actually the worst part of that is there a scene before the family in the house and stuff, or is that kind of the opening scene?
It opens with Joe Pesci is pretending to be a cop. I mean, like, hey, you know, I'm trying to talk to, and he hits up all the
so it's just that whole
everything.
extended scene, right?
Exactly.
So kind of like by the way, I think like as far as you know, pacing and structure, that is another thing that this movie does really well, having all that happen in the first 10 minutes. That the next movie doesn't necessarily do. But that scene sort of culminates with what's probably like the worst transgression against Kevin or against the parents or whatever. That's Catherine O'Hara's conversation with Kevin. Like, I felt for him. That was kind of a brutal conversation. Both of them said things that they don't mean, and that you know, Kevin's a kid, it's forgivable, but Catherine O'Hara should know better.
But I think that's something that
she kind of like egged him on.
Yeah, I think that's something that like every child and parent goes through at
100%.
some point, where they fed up with each other. There's that battle of the wills, and you say shit that you don't mean and you regret it, and in the moment you might mean it, but you immediately after you say it, like he says it, he's like, I'm sorry. Like,
well, I don't know if I think that that's a sincere sorry, but yeah.
I think it's a kid saying sorry, recognizing that he's wrong, but also still feeling pissed off. Like, I think in that moment he knows, like, Kevin is a complicated character and he's smart.
Yeah.
So
I think just to finish that thought off, I think that one of the best things this movie does is that they have Kevin and forget the mom's name, Catherine O'Hara, kind of say some awful stuff to each other, and then they spend the entire movie regretting that and just wanting to get back to each other and reconnect.
Yeah. Well,
And
definitely
you feel
her.
that.
Kevin enjoys being alone for a bit.
Yeah, of course, but
So
generally he wants to get back to his mom or get his mom
exactly.
back.
And I mean, what are some things? Because like we said, we don't want to spend a ton of time on this. Because everybody has said something, but like, give me some highlights or some things that you feel we need to say.
Well, my first one's maybe not a need to say, but I thought it was funny. The dad forgets his shaving kit or something, or if he gets to pack it, and Catherine O'Hara says, "How am I supposed to shave?" And she tells him to grow a goatee. You still have to shave to get a goatee.
Yeah, you do.
If everything just grows in, it's a beard.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Well, since you got that nitpicky thing, I do have another nitpicky that's facial hair related. So it's a famous scene, one of the most famous, iconic moments of this movie, when he puts on the aftershave and he's like, ah!
Mm-hmm.
Aftershave only stings if you have cuts and wounds because it's disinfecting. It's getting into the open
and
wound.
He didn't even try to shave. He didn't like fake shave. He didn't do anything.
He would be fine. That wouldn't sting all that much.
I think one of my biggest nitpicks with this movie, like real nitpicks, is that the sped up footage when the family's packing and stuff feels very corny.
I don't mind that, but that's a stylistic thing. We can agree to disagree on that. I think your feelings are valid, even if I don't agree.
Yeah, I have another one here, but I'm actually going to save that for the next movie because it's more relevant.
Save it. Keep it in the chamber.
Did Kevin need to hide in the manger? Remember, Harry and Marv follow him, which is terrifying, and he goes to the church, and then we don't see him, and Harry and Marv are like, I'm not going in there. I'm not going to church, which, whatever, I guess. They could go in the church, like it's fucking church.
I think his rationale is he probably thought they would follow, and
then he'd be in the church. He'd be inside with, other people.
And but maybe they can wait it out. I don't know. He's a kid. Like, there's obviously holes in his logic. Like, he doesn't call the cops. He decides to build a fortress and a death, gauntlet kind of thing.
Sure. Right,
so, I mean, he's still a child.
I like when Kevin says, lovely cheese pizza just for me. I'm going to start saying that more often. The cashier, Sally is her name.
Mm-hmm.
She gives Kevin a really hard time at the grocery store.
I went to the grocery store. My mom would send me into the grocery store and stay in the car with the kids, my younger siblings, all the time because I was the oldest of a family of 4, and it's a pain in the ass to get 4 kids out of the car. It really wasn't that big of a deal.
And she's eyeballing him the entire time. Like, even before she says, "Where's your parents?" She's like, I don't know. She's like mean mugging him. Like, she wants to pick a fight. Yeah.
Maybe kids don't go out on their own in Chicago.
I like when Kevin goes and talks to the guy dressed up as Santa. I think he catches him just as he's getting in his car.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, hold on, I got to give you a present." I think Kevin's like, No, it's okay. He's like, No. Nobody sees Santa doesn't get a present. And he gives him 3 Tic Tacs.
Yeah. Well, I do want to point this out because I see this meme every year, and I just want to fucking address it. Every year we see the house, and they're like, "How the hell did this what did the father do where he can afford this mansion of a house?" And all the airfare for all these 15 people to Paris. Mm-hmm. Just want to set the record. He didn't pay for all the airfare. His rich brother, Rob, who lives in Paris, who also owns the house in New York in the second movie, is the one who paid for this all. So stop asking the fucking question. This wasn't directed at you. This is directed at all the millions of people on the internet who share the same fucking meme year after year when it's answered in the movie.
Well, I have video recorded of you saying that, and I'll put it on TikTok, and it's going to go viral, and no one will ever bring it up again.
Thank you.
Why is the third movie, Home Alone 3, about a terrorist organization and a child prodigy?
I saw that movie once, and I hated it. The only thing I remember from that movie is it's got I can't remember the actor's name right now, but he's from Third Rock from the Sun. But the only part I remember is the kid. There's a point where he smashes his dick and balls when a toilet seat cover falls on him while he's peeing, and that's the thing. In this one, they're like, Kevin can't pack a suitcase, and then in that movie, it's like, this kid can't pee standing up without smashing his junk in a toilet seat. That's the only thing I remember about that movie, and I've seen it once.
That's awful. Yeah. I just even before the movie is done or anything, why is that the direction that they chose to go in?
I don't know, man.
Joe Pesci had a really good run during this time.
Yeah, early 90s was peak Joe Pesci.
Lethal Weapon 2, Goodfellas, Home Alone, My Cousin Vinny, Lethal Weapon 3, and Home Alone 2, all between 89 and 92.
Fantastic run.
Yeah.
My
So
Cousin
good.
Vinny is so fantastic, and that's a movie I saw 1,000 times on TV, and then I bought it on DVD a few years ago and did not realize how much of an R-rated movie that was because of all the editing on TV. It was like
I think that-
watching it for the first time ever.
I think that Joe Pesci should be Uncle Ben in the Spider-Man movies.
That would be pretty funny.
That'd be fantastic. Weird, kind of a weird incest thing, right? But
No, I don't think so.
is Marissa Tomei his cousin in that movie?
No, that's his girlfriend. The
Oh, yeah.
cousin is Ralph Macchio.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You fool.
It's weird. It's weird that the movie keeps on going for so long after he defeats the Wet Bandits, and like there's a lot of heart in it. It's fine, but it also kind of felt like that was the end of the movie, and then there was another like 5 minutes.
I didn't mind that. Like he's got to get it. I do. The one thing that I think is really funny is that he cleans up the whole house. Obviously, misses the little gold tooth, and the dad's like, "What is this?" Except for Buzz's room. Like it ends with, "Buzz, what did you do to my room?" And then
I didn't mind that.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I just think it's funny that like that's the only evidence that he like misbehaved is that he like destroyed Buzz's room. Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof.
What's your favorite scene in this movie? Top of your head.
Oh man, it's so hard. I love this movie from beginning to end. I
did not realize. I'm interrupting you because I have an answer.
Oh, go.
I didn't realize until this watch that I think my favorite scene is when he's in the church with the old man, and the old man explains to him why he's not talking to his son anymore, and Kevin like helps him.
It's
work
very
through his
endearing
issue.
and touching.
Oh, it's fantastic, man. It's so good.
That's something I love about this movie is that like even though Kevin has his family struggles, and he's going through and realizing he actually loves his family, he doesn't want his family to be gone anymore, and he's kind of going through a similar thing and teaches the adult things. Each movie he learns, or the two movies, he's only done two of them, but the two with Macaulay Culkin, he encounters an adult that initially scares him, and he learns not to prejudge people, and he improves these people's lives by, being friendly with him when, a lot of people look down on him. So I think that's fantastic. I just don't want to say a bunch of things that everybody has said before. The traps are brutal. They kill, those people would be dead multiple times over. Yes, we know. Yeah. But they're so ingenious. It's so fun. And, I'll probably watch this again before Christmas just because I actually did. Obviously, I don't know if you guys can tell. I had some tea before recording, but my voice is a little off. I got a little bit of a cold. You sound great. So I fell asleep a little bit. But I've seen this movie 1,000 times, so I felt comfortable talking about it. So I didn't go through and rewatch it, but I'll probably rewatch it again before Christmas comes around. But it's a damn near perfect movie. Yeah. Like there's not. I don't think there's a wasted frame. I love all the setup. I love the detail of them accidentally throwing out his plane ticket, so that's why they didn't realize he was gone, and the kid being there and gets counted. Like there's just everything lines up and makes sense, and there's a reason why I wanted to end with that. Yeah, from my standpoint. If you have something else to add, by all means.
I was just to say this movie is so good that we've talked about it for 15 minutes and haven't even mentioned John Candy.
I mentioned John Candy at the beginning.
We've barely mentioned.
Yeah,
but we haven't talked. Don't give me a hard time, buddy.
Well, don't say I didn't do something when I did do it. We haven't
talked about John Candy being in this movie, really. Yeah, you mentioned that he's in there, but he's so good.
There's so many other things to
talk about.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I love John Candy. I miss him.
Yeah.
All right. Next segment. What have you been up to, bud?
Just been watching some stuff. Still watching Succession. Killing it.
Kieran Culkin.
Can't wait. Yeah. Nice little connection to Home Alone. I like to imagine that they take place in the same universe.
Nice.
That Roman grew up pissing the bed because he had too much Pepsi. And that is why he is the way he is. I started watching the new season of Curb. Fantastic.
Nice.
You're not keeping up with that at all, right?
No, I don't really like Larry David. I think he's a terrible person. He's super misogynistic and he's a piece of shit.
Oh, okay.
Like
I didn't realize it was this kind of podcast.
Yeah, no, he there was this very short-lived show where basically, let's say you and me had a quarrel. I'm just going to use that word again since we used it earlier and it's a good word. We would go on the show and a celebrity judge would say, decide who the winner of the argument is. And so there was an episode, it was the very first episode, there was a woman who was really pissed off that her husband would never, help with the chores, wouldn't do anything with the kids, just being a piece of shit husband. And so she was just like, stop sleeping with him until he decided to be like a good husband. And Larry David is just like, nope, you lose. Like the idea, as soon as you get married, the idea is you get sex whenever you want. And I was just like, that's a piece of shit kind of outlook. Fuck you, Larry David. And I've hated him ever since.
Okay, well, you win that argument. In other news, I watched Repo Man.
Again?
No, I watched Repo Man, not Repo Men.
Oh, got it. Sorry.
Yeah, with Emilio Estevez et al. And that movie's just fantastic. I think that might be a perfect movie as well.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, yeah, it's great, dude. It's a Criterion collection.
Oh, how old is it? When did it come out?
1984.
Oh, okay. It's an old one.
Emilio Estevez is this like punk in Los Angeles, and he gets roped into being a repo man.
Oh, I know what this movie. I've heard. Okay, I know which one you're talking about now. I've never seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
All right. So anyway, I watched that. It's great.
Oh, good.
I mean, I've seen it before, but I rewatched it. Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I really enjoyed, and a lot of people have been shitting on.
I fucking loved it. I cried like a baby at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't cry like a baby, but got a little welled up. It's nice.
I openly
I don't want to spoil
wept.
anything. Yeah, it was good. And the product placement like doesn't bother me. Like, yeah, Paul Rudd's character would go to a Walmart in the middle of the country, and he likes Baskin and Robbins. I don't even know that the Baskin Robbins is really product placement in the true sense of the word, because Paul Rudd seems to have Baskin Robbins in every movie that he's in.
Yeah, that's true. Ant-Man, they always know, or they always find out, or whatever it is.
That's right. And then I watched Kung Pao Enter the Fist last night, which is one of my favorite movies.
I saw your Instagram, and now I really want to watch it. And I'll probably watch it tonight or tomorrow because Katrina's out of town and she fucking hates that movie. But I loved that movie as a middle school.
It's so fun. I wish they made another one. And then my other surprisingly good movie was Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar.
I want to watch that. That's with
Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig. That's a really good transition to my list of what I've been up to, bud. Because I, after watching Ghostbusters Afterlife, I decided to rewatch the 2016 female one. And I was traveling. I went to Alaska for a wedding last week. And so I watched that on the plane. Unfortunately, it was the extended edition. Apple digital copy was only the extended edition, which is not as good as the theatrical version. It's just like the jokes go on too long. But I actually do not dislike the female Ghostbusters movie. I think the special effects are cool. I really like what it does with aspect ratio, where it has like the proton burst goes outside of the aspect ratio. I think it's a solid movie, and I think Chris Hemsworth is hilarious in it.
Yeah, he's the best part for me.
I genuinely think it's a pretty solid movie. I rewatched Dredd because it's a fantastic movie.
You don't need
watched
a reason.
Blade Runner, the original one. Fantastic. Katrina had never seen it. I've never actually seen it all the way through. I've seen all of it, but not beginning to end. So we watched the final cut. Fantastic. We watched the second season of The Great, which is great. And then Hawkeye came out, and I watched the first 3 episodes of Hawkeye.
Nice. I'm gonna watch I'm gonna watch the newest one tonight.
Excellent.
What is it, the 6th episode now?
It'll be the 4th. Hawkeye?
Tonight? Tonight's at least the 5th.
No, it's not.
All right.
It'll be the 4th.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'm stoked to watch the 4th episode tonight.
Yeah. Are you looking it up to see if I'm wrong?
Nope.
That's what you're doing, aren't you? You son of a bitch.
Don't know what you're talking about.
You son of a bitch. Now we gotta.
I'm just collecting my notes for the next segment of this show that we're doing together.
Oh, sure. Hawkeye. I'm pulling it up now too. Season 3 episode 3 was the last one. Episode 4 coming out tonight. No,
I understand what's happening. You're on episode 4. I'm on episode 5 because
no, you're not. I'm looking at it. I've got it pulled up right now.
Because
it's episode 4.
I know. That's how it would look for a civilian. But I'm on Jeremy Renner's personal VIP.
Oh, you're on his little social media thing that he made on his own back in the day.
I'm not supposed to talk about it, but he and I are buddies, and I get the episodes 1 week in advance.
Oh,
so I'm on 5.
One other thing, speaking of personal buddies, I went to a special screening of Dune, saw Dune for the 3rd time with director Denis Villeneuve at Warner Brothers in their special theater, which honestly is the best theater I've ever been in. It's like watching the movie for the first time ever because it had a sound system unlike any I've ever heard. It was incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I screamed into home.
I screamed multiple times, Denis! Denis! It
You
was
should have
fun.
called him Denis Moore.
No, I would never disrespect him like that.
Say Denis Moore.
He's
more
one of my
Dune.
favorite directors. Between that, the new Blade
hear what I
Runner,
said? I said, more
Prisoners,
Dune.
Arrival. So good. Oh, more Dune. Okay, I get you.
Yeah.
I get you now.
Thank you.
I see what you did.
Let's talk about Home Sweet Home Alone.
Oof.
So, like, you know how I'm just realizing that we didn't do the synopsis for either of these
No,
movies.
but we don't need
I
to
don't
for
think
the
we need
original
to.
Home Alone.
I don't think we need you for this one either.
No.
You know how SNL is like known for being hit or miss with their skits?
Yeah.
And like sometimes the skits like go on for too long, and sometimes that's okay because they're funny, but other times it's just like, fuck, man, like this wasn't funny to begin with. Why are we still here?
Yeah.
Right?
Know exactly
This-
what you mean.
This feels exactly like that. Like from the first, like literally the first scene of the movie with Keenan being the realtor. I was like, oh, this feels exactly like an SNL skit, just like the way it's
I
paced, the jokes
agree.
that they're going for, and like it doesn't feel like a movie, and that's something that I really like about Home Alone, the original one, is that it feels cinematic. It feels
It
like
does.
like an adventure, like a story that is put together for you by a person with a vision, with a unique vision that wants to tell you a story that's going to have a moral and a beginning and a middle and an end and a purpose to it. And this movie started out, and I was like, oh, we're in bad hands, man.
So
This is just an SNL skit. And then I went and I looked up who wrote it, and it's two guys from SNL.
oh, there you go. So
Yeah.
when they announced this for Disney Plus, and I'm like, we did, 2 movies without Macaulay Culkin that weren't very good, didn't do very well. But you know what? Disney Plus, they've been doing some pretty good stuff. Oh, the kid from Jojo Rabbit, the chubby cute one, that was one of my favorite parts of that movie. Maybe this isn't going to be so bad. Rob Delaney, okay. L.A. Kemper, okay, yeah. This could be fun. And like you said, from the very, very beginning, it was just really bad. I watched the trailer for it, and I was just like, ooh. And it's just, the trailer was bad, and I was like, you know what? Maybe it's just a bad trailer. But I think I genuinely liked one part of this movie, and it's when he dressed. Both movies have this thing where they, obviously, the Angels with Filthy Souls is the movie that he really likes.
I hated this part.
Yeah, well, this isn't the part. So they do the stupidest thing, and we'll talk about it in a second. But in this version of the movie, he kind of like idolizes is Scarface. He dresses up as Tony Montana. He has this,
Does he realize that he's doing that?
He would have to, because he does the T-shirt cannon, and then he goes and has the pile of M&Ms and shoves his face in the pile of M&Ms.
Is there any other scene where he's like, "Hey, I love Scarface"?
No, but and he doesn't even watch it. He just
I think
dresses up.
that's a joke. I think it's a joke for us.
But
I
it
think
doesn't
he
make
just
any
happens. No, I know. That's why I don't like it. But I
yeah,
think
so
that
he
just happens.
I
to be
didn't
doing
like that, but he dresses up as like Tony Montana first,
Mhm.
and then he puts on a dress, and then I genuinely laughed at that, and he kind of was like,
Oh, yeah.
huh, and then he goes back to Tony Montana, and that I kind of laughed when he put on the dress.
that. Yeah, but
and
that
that was
also that felt very insincere. That felt just like, oh, we're gonna put a moment in this movie where the kid is does something woke, but just because like I don't even know how to say it. Because they know that'll get a reaction,
Right.
Not because they genuinely want to show a kid like being potentially gender fluid or just like comfortable doing something outside of the norm. I don't know. It felt insincere, and I was just like,
I think you're right for the movie, but I think that's the only part where the kid felt believable.
Yeah,
Because I liked this kid in Jojo Rabbit, and
that moment makes me want him to be a real life Bobby Hill. Do you realize how much of this movie is spent explaining away why this premise could happen in 2021?
Yeah, so much of it. And like the thing that drives me crazy the most about it is there's just no excuse for it in this one. Like the mom doesn't tell anybody like, hey, make sure, my son gets up on gets on this flight. Because the premise of this one, the big, oh, how did this get fucked up was they were all on one flight to Tokyo, but it was overbooked. So they ended up getting rebooked on 2 separate flights, and the mom goes without telling any of the adults, hey, make sure my son gets on this flight. And then Pete Holmes as her brother-in-law or brother, and then
Love Pete Holmes.
I hate Pete Holmes. I hate him.
Keep going.
But it's fine. He's just really obnoxious whenever he guest stars on other people's podcasts. And then
Don't worry about it. Keep going with what you're saying. I don't want to detract you.
yeah, but they just, nobody realizes that he's gone, and nobody realizes that he's supposed to be on the plane, and there's no follow-up from the mom. And that's it. Like, there's just no rational reason why this really should have happened, him getting left alone.
Yeah, and let's see. I wrote down a few of these examples because I feel like it feels like exposition dumps about why these things are happening. It's like so specific. My note is literally, they spend so much of this movie explaining away how improbable the issue is in 2021.
Yeah. Well, they do something that, we don't have a home phone, so we can't call. And
right. Stuff like that.
Yeah. And then, like, he has a computer. He goes on it, and, like, he tries to get to, like, porn and stuff, and he can't. But it's just like, she doesn't shoot an email. She doesn't do, like, there's so many other ways of technology that you could get through to this kid, and she doesn't do any of them.
Another one of my main beefs with this movie is that they made the bad guys like real people and like relatable parents. Like, good, they made the bad guys good guys, and it was all just a misunderstanding. And they know that they were doing that, and at the end they have this moment, spoilers, they have the moment where they're like, oh, so you're just alone. Well, we were just trying to keep our house because we love our family. Why don't you be a part of our family? And I felt like
maybe we should explain that just a little bit. So the basic premise is Rob Delaney and Ellie Kemper are going to lose their home because Rob Delaney's character, Jeff, is in like data management, and everything's in the cloud now. I can't tell you how many times they say it, the cloud, in this movie.
Sorry, let me sidebar for just a second. This and the milk joke, they thought were so funny, and they just keep on hitting these jokes like, oh wow, these people have a lot of milk in their house, and oh, it's in the cloud, yeah. And I think they thought that people would be like rolling in the aisles, and neither one of those things are funny at all.
Maybe 5 years ago the cloud joke would have done better, but not today.
This movie feels like it was written at least 5 years ago.
Yeah, so they're gonna lose their home because he's been out of work for X amount of time. The only reason their paths cross is the kid has to go pee, and they just left the store, and they're not close enough that he can make it home. So they stop in at this open house, and he goes to the bathroom, and then they see these like weird funky dolls with an upside down face. And the mom comments, oh, I've seen that doll before. Like, I think it goes for like $5,000. And then the doll goes missing. They assume the kid took it, and they find out that it's actually worth $200,000 and that it will save their family. And that's really what it is like they're going to lose their home. And so they go to the house to try to be like, hey, can we get our doll back? But no one's there. But then they hear the alarm code for whatever reason, and then they find the key. So he's just like, well, I'm just going to go in the house and get it. And then they overhear like he's talking like, oh, this ugly boy, I'm going to get this ugly boy and sell it to a grandma. And the kid hears that, and he's just like, well, nope, I'm just going to fuck up anybody who comes to my home. And that's kind of so like stupid. The crust of the movie, but it's just the kids.
Like, why can't it just be a couple guys who want to break into the house?
Right.
See how easy that is?
Yeah. I do want to give one glowing thing about this movie. I am so happy, and even though there is a McAllister in this movie, Buzz is a cop in this movie. I am so glad that it wasn't, oh, it's going to be Kevin's kids, and Kevin left him here, and Catherine O'Hara is going to be like, you see how easy it is? I'm glad they didn't go that route.
I mean, I guess.
And I'm also glad that they didn't go, oh, we're not going to get Macaulay Culkin, but like, oh, Macaulay Culkin's kids get dropped off at Catherine O'Hara's house to stay with grandma, and then something happens and they need to defend. I'm just really glad that they didn't try to shoehorn the McAllisters as the protagonists of the movie.
I mean, but they did shoehorn the McAllisters in.
Yeah, I mean, they did put Buzz in.
It doesn't need to be in the same universe. Buzz
no.
is so, if you haven't seen the movie, Buzz is a cop now.
A shitty cop.
I don't think is he a cop or is he?
No, he's a cop.
Security.
No, he's a cop.
Okay. So Buzz is a cop, and he checks on the house, and he's tricked by Ellie Kemper flirting with him to not check inside the house.
To be fair, I would be wooed by Ellie Kemper.
Sure. We all would be. And then he gets a call from the station, and they're like, hey, can you check on this house? We got a report that a kid is there alone, that his family accidentally left him. And he's like, you know what? That happened to me one time, and my brother likes to play pranks, so it's definitely not happening again. Like, he literally says, hey, that's a thing that happened. It can't possibly be happening right now.
Well, then he also goes, like, I saw the house, the McAllister security system, because that I do kind of like that little wink that Kevin went into security.
If
But it's
Bugs
like,
wasn't a cop, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
right. So, yeah, it's and like
And
the
then
other thing.
and
Go
then
ahead.
that scene ends with Buzz eating a burrito, and like it's making me feel sick right now. He like eats it purposefully, very gross, and
Yeah, and
there's
it just like
no
goes all
explanation
over.
for it in the movie.
It's like the old Carl's Jr. commercials. If it doesn't get all over your face, it doesn't lie on your
Yeah.
face. Except it's not a hot chick.
So like, what's the joke that he's kind of gross?
That he's fat. They're fat shaming him.
I guess so.
So the other thing, I think the biggest thing that's disappointing to me in this movie is you go from Macaulay Culkin, who's arguably one of the, if not the greatest, one of the greatest child actors of all time. He does drama really well. Like he did The Good Son, which is a fantastic movie. Obviously, he did all the, the kid movies he did, Home Alone, Richie Rich, and whatnot. But arguably one of the greatest comedic child actors of all time. His comedic timing is perfect. His delivery is great. He's sincere. He's charming. This kid, and there's a lot of like dialogue that they recycle, like, are you ready for more? This kid doesn't deliver any of the lines well. He's not likable. Like, this kid is shitty to everybody. His mom is really nice to him. Like, some of his siblings, like his family, aren't nice to him, but they're not actively mean to him like they were in the original movie.
Yeah.
They're just like hanging out with the house, and this kid is shitty to everyone. He shows up to church and he sees a toy drive, and he's just like,
Yeah, and he
can I
tries
get
to
a
take one of the
shopping cart?
toys.
Can I get a shopping cart? Can I get these toys? Like, this kid is 10 or 11 years old. He knows what a toy drive is. He knows you can't go to a church and
He's
just
older than
collect
Kevin.
toys.
Yeah.
And even if he only had a vague idea, you would know you can only get one. You can't just go like, I'm going to take all these toys. Like, fuck this kid.
I feel like the guys writing this like did not understand the original movie at all.
No.
And
like,
they're our age. They're adult men in their mid-30s. They grew up with that movie.
They should know.
And, yeah, they just it just seems like they didn't watch it. They didn't care about it at all. Nothing that was special about the first movie is in this one. Or there's what feels like maybe it's attempts like making this movie about bringing people together and family and stuff, but it feels like surface level and insincere.
Yeah,
the dad, like what's his name?
Rob
the kid's
Delaney.
dad. No, not the other dad.
Oh yeah, I don't remember.
He's like not even in this movie. He's literally in I think 45 seconds of the movie.
Yeah, if even.
And like for a movie about family, I don't know anything about the new Kevin's parents or siblings or whatever.
Yeah, well, and like none of them are cool. Like they're they just don't care. Like Pete Holmes' character is just like, well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Like it was
just like in a different movie in this.
Yeah,
I thought he was funny, but he's not in the same movie.
He's just like everybody is just like trying to not be the one that's at fault for leaving Max there.
Yeah,
it's just like there isn't really any
Max
concern, and like she's just able to get on a flight and get back. Like it just takes time, and like the other thing is like this kid doesn't grow. Like nothing changed. Like he's not necessarily afraid. He doesn't have that neighbor that's scary that he needs to learn to not judge. Like there's no lessons learned by this kid. Yeah. And like he just gets bailed out at the end because they're like, "Oh, we got this money, and so we'll just pay for the the renovations to your house because now we have $200,000."
Yeah, and also the sister or the sister-in-law says, "Oh, I'm so glad they're not poor anymore," which like tone deaf line in 2021.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, like they got $200,000. The last scene was not clear to me, but it seems like they're on the hook for some of the repairs to the big house, right?
They just offered to pay for it.
Okay. So she says, "So I'm so glad they're not poor anymore." And I was thinking like, they got $200,000 and that buys enough time for the dad to find a new job, right? They're still poor. Like $200,000.
Well, he got a
not
job
that much. Within the year, not immediately.
Yeah.
But they're in the same position. Like $200,000
immediately, yeah, they would have been in the same position, yeah.
It just means that they don't lose their house.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you not poor.
No, absolutely. And God, I just don't even know what to say. You telling me that this was written by SNL writers who were in their 30s to 40s surprises me because I would have thought that this was written by some 40, 50, 60-year-old men who don't understand technology because there's a point where like they put a VR headset on Rob Delaney's character.
And it's still got his clothing and hands.
Yeah, and it's just like, it has his clothing and hands.
And he doesn't realize that he has a VR.
It's better than the OAs. It's better than Ready Player One. It looks real. He doesn't feel the helmet on his head, any of this. Like, it's just makes no sense.
To be fair, he just had a
billiards ball shot at him at a bunch.
His head. So he might have a little bit of brain trauma.
The one thing I do think is interesting is, other than that, like shooting a billiards ball at somebody, because billiards balls are used as weapons in movies a lot, where people will grab a ball and smack somebody over the face with it. That is probably the deadliest thing that this kid did. Like, the traps are not quite as deadly as the Kevin McAllister ones.
He shoots thumbtacks at Ellie Kemper's face.
Yeah, but that's not.
And
lethal.
I know that's not lethal, but like she could have got one in her eye or something.
Yeah.
Like it's less cartoony because it's a sharp thing penetrating your skin.
Yeah,
you know.
But I mean, in the original one, you got Joe Pesci's hand was burned to have an M scarred it forever.
I'm saying having something actually penetrate your skin, though, just like I think subconsciously is more violent than a burn.
Fair enough.
And to your point, though, you're right. Like, I think the original movie sets itself up as a bit of a cartoon early on.
Yeah.
And on that note, like Harry and Marv are just bad guys. They are bad guys. We don't sympathize with them at all. And it would be easy to make the audience sympathize with them because maybe they're poverty stricken and they're just trying to get by or whatever. And the movie makes a point of saying, no, that's not what's happening. These are bad guys. Harry,
this is all premeditated.
Harry just wants to destroy people's houses. Like the wet bandit thing is like evident. And Marv calls it out too. Like, he's sick. Like, he's a bad person with bad wiring. You know, he just wants to ruin other people's things.
Some people just want to watch the world burn.
And this movie goes out of its way to point out that Ellie Kemper and Rob Delaney are good people, and they're being forced into this situation, and they've exercised every other option, and all they want to do is take care of their family. So when they start getting thumbtacks shot at them and falling down,
I don't feel good about watching them get hurt.
The head and in the dick with billiard balls and bags of sand and shit. I'm like, oh, I'm not enjoying this at all. Like, I don't want to see these people get beat up.
It feels wrong.
These are people that I would be friends with.
Like, yes, they're still technically breaking the law.
Dude, the first time that Rob Delaney looked in the window and he thinks that he sees the thing, and Pete Holmes has basically given him the keys and the code to the house. Like, he said it out loud and he put the keys away right in front of this stranger. Rob Delaney looked in the window and I was like, yeah, go in and get it. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Like, honestly. Yeah,
it's like it's wrong, but like you also kind of get it. Like, there's no harm in that.
Yeah, he would have just gone in, looked in the pocket. He would have seen that it's a can of soda and been like, oh, fuck. All right. And then left.
Yeah.
And, you know, if that happened to me, I wouldn't press charges against that person.
Right. And that's just the whole movie.
Don't break into my house, guys.
Right. The mom is nice, but she just doesn't have any foresight to make sure her kid's taken care of. There's not anything about this movie that's redeemable.
Yeah.
And then, we teed up something. So I think this is the most egregious foul of this movie. So there's a point where he's watching Angels with Filthy Souls, but it's a remake and it's a futuristic remake, and it kind of looks like Flash Gordon. And one of the characters goes, the remakes are never as good as the original. Why the fuck would you say that in a movie that is a remake?
They think they're being clever. And
and that's I don't know what that trope is called. Like, that has a thing where it's just like, if the movie calls out something being ridiculous, then the audience will give it a pass. But like, that's not a kind of thing that you give it a pass.
Yeah. I think it's called hanging a hat on it or something.
Yeah, something like that.
And it doesn't work. I think if it's like, I guess you could argue this, but if it's something that's unavoidable and you're just trying to hand wave it away and be like, hey, we're here to have a good time, let's have a good time. Then it's like, whatever. But this movie doesn't seem like it's interested in the audience having a good time, so it feels like more of a fuck you. Like, that line to me felt like what's his name from Veep, just being like, hey, we already got your money. You're here. You're watching it. You know you're in. Fuck you.
Yeah.
We're not even gonna make this good. Fuck you, audience.
Yeah.
That's probably a good place to end this, honestly.
Yeah. I mean,
I have so many notes, but it's just like things that are wrong with this movie. Yeah, there's a lot of things wrong with this movie. It's not fun. I felt like I was in Kevin's house being attacked watching it.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Like, this is one of the worst movies I've seen in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Like, the only good thing I said about the movie was the fact that it just didn't do something that I thought would have been worse. Like, I don't have anything redeeming to say. So I think it goes without saying this remake didn't need to happen. It absolutely shouldn't have happened. And I was really hoping it wouldn't be a Home Alone 3 or whatever the fourth Home Alone movie was called. There's a fourth one that has a different kid in it. Don't remember what it's called. But like this, no.
It was a waste of everyone's time that was involved.
Yeah, everybody.
The audience,
I feel
the
bad.
crew, the actors. There's a better movie that exists in another universe with Pete Holmes, Ellie Kemper, Rob Delaney, Jim Rash, Chris Parnell, maybe Kenan Thompson.
Yeah.
All these people could have been in something else.
So, well, let's wrap it up. Give us your plugs.
Yeah, I'm on the Instagrams at dyslexic, DYS Alex IC. I'm on Twitter at Polishi, and I'm on TikTok at Polishi as well. And you can follow along with the movies that I'm watching in my letterbox, also at Polishi.
Excellent. And you guys can check out everything that's MDXpods related at MDXpods.com. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at MDXpods. If you would like to support the show and get early access, bonus episodes, and whatnot, you can check us out at patreon.com/MDXpods. But other than that, thanks for listening, and happy holidays and whatnot. Our next episode will probably be something Spider-Man related.